Peace and blessings, family. What's up with all the daydreamers out there? Please live it. Don't sleep through this thing. So we're in the new year, man. A few days in, and of course, with the new year comes plans, goals, aspirations, and things that we want to do. And some people, for the most part, say that they want to do something that is fresh, that is new, right? They want to do something new, start a new project, start a new venture, and things of that nature, right? Something that is refreshing to them. And by all means, if that's where you're at and that's what you want to do and you agree with yourself to do it, go ahead, knock it out, do that thing, right? But my wife said something to me a couple of days ago that reminded me that the new year is not always about doing something new. My wife said, babe, I don't want to do something new. I don't want to start a new project. I don't want to start a new venture. I don't want to start something new. I want to continue. And that really spoke to me, man, that the new year is not only about something new, but it's about other things that we might need to really actually take into consideration. And one of those things that she said it was continuing. There's things that is left unfinished from last year. You need to continue in rather than starting something new. And she's talking about continuing in the growth that she's had. And wherever those pockets of maturity and growth that she's seeing, that she wants to continue to work on, I pray that she reaches those goals and that God blesses her to exceed those goals, right? Whether it's through her daily devotion, her daily prayer, which she's been consistent at, whether it's through fellowship, whether it's through continuing to grow the business that she's in with the paintings that she does and things of that nature. If it's in ministry, whatever it might be, if it's in forgiveness, if it's in love, if it's continuing as a wife, as a mother, as a sister, as a aunt, whatever it might be that she's trying to continue in, I pray that she exceeds her own expectations, right? But not only continuing, and this is for you guys, but we not only need to try to continue where we left off, because it might not be something that was left unfinished, but it's something that we have been maturing in, and we don't need to leave it as if we've arrived yet. We need to continue to focus on it and mature it, grow it, and cultivate it, right? But not only that, perhaps some of us need to go back. So with that, let's use a biblical example of Israel so you can kind of understand what I mean by going back, right? Because we think of the new year as going forward. We don't often think of it like I need to go back, but we might need to go back. Israel, anytime they was at the footstep of God's judgment and God's wrath, they would be reminded of the law. They will be reminded of the covenant agreement. They will be reminded of what God did for them when they was captive in Egypt, what God did for them when they needed provision in the wilderness, what God did for them at Mount Sinai, what God did for them as they crossed over into the Jordan, right? And like they would be reminded of this relationship that they had with God up until this point of rebellion, right? And basically, God is asking them, you're moving forward without me, come back. And maybe we need to go back as Christians to studying. Maybe we need to go back to actually really having theological discussions. Maybe we need to go back to actually knowing what worship is and exemplifying worship, not just in songs and lifting our hands in a building where the lights are real dim, but actually living a life of worship on a day-to-day basis. Maybe we need to go back to when we first obeyed the gospel. We confessed that Jesus Christ is the Lord of our life and that he is the Son of the living God. And we repented and turned, and we knew what it was like to that feeling of turning away, repenting, turning from a sinful life. And then that baptism when we went down and came up as that watery grave, and we came out with that clear conscience towards God, a new creature. Maybe we need to go back to that point in time so we can remember the why to our life, the why to our worship, the why to our studies, the why to our gatherings. Why do we come together? Why do we profess this? Why do we live this life? Why? And then we probably can understand why we've forgotten forgotten, why we've forsaken, why we stopped. What is the reason why we left God on the side of the road and continued on without him? Maybe we need to stop the car this year, turn around and go back and pick that back up. And the reason why that struck me so hard with what my wife said, and the reason why I wanted to just present this to you guys about going back, because she's thinking about continuing. And that's what I want. I'm all for that. I will support her through that. But I realized that last year for me was about stopping and going back. I'm a talk about that a little bit more and give more detail to why that was. And it wasn't just last year, it was a couple of years. I had to stop some things. I had to put a halt and walk away from some things because I noticed that I was leaving God on the sideline. I was leaving God on the curb. Things became less about him and more about the things that it shouldn't have been. I'll elaborate on that. I'm planning on talking about that a lot more later on in another video, but perhaps for you this year, you don't need to start a new thing. You don't need to start a new thing, and you don't need to continue with what you're doing now. Maybe this year you need to stop and go back. I know it's going to stop the forward progress you made. I know it's going to stop the momentum that you have. It's going to put a halt on the expansion that you see happening in your life. But for many of you, or for some of you, or for many of you, that expansion, that growth, that increase is happening without God. And that's a dangerous thing. And you need to stop and go back and pick it up and remember your first love. Much love and respect. Y'all be safe out there, man. This your boy Sleep. Peace.